All right, everybody, we've got a special guest here today. Pat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Here with Boz, you guys are out on the East Coast. I'm coming to you from the West Coast. And so we're going to have a great chat about your fitness journey. I can think through your life in general and then how you found yourself, at the CrossFit Games as one of the fittest women in the world. It's pretty darn cool.
I still have chills. I'll be honest with you. It's very
Yeah.
surreal. Very
I mean,
surreal.
you earned those. That's good.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I
Uh,
do.
100%. And I should say, just to pay the bills before we kick it off, if you're a gym owner, you've got a lot of stuff to do. You've got to do workout tracking, gym management, and billing. btwb has an all-in-one solution for that. Just go to btwb.com, check out the all-in-one, and make your life, they say, roughly 1 billion times easier. It's not scientific. It's just what I hear. All right.
Rough.
So
Rough.
did you two actually wind up crossing paths at the games?
Yeah, a couple times.
We did.
Over the
And
years.
Boz, I think the first thing I said to you was I apologize for my group that took the athlete briefing to well over an hour. And
Oh,
No,
that's
hey,
incredible.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done. You know what I mean? And for people
it
that
was,
weren't there at the,
I
the
was
Legends.
embarrassed for myself. I
No,
mean,
come on. The
being a part of
Legends
that, but
Masters final this year, they had a couple different briefings throughout the day based on the age groups because there's
yeah,
a lot of them, and
yes,
so they
there are.
lumped them together, and each one of them was quite a number of athletes. I mean, there's a couple hundred athletes in each one of them. And you try to get through as much as you can. You got to ride that balance between being thorough, so that people know what they're doing, but not being so thorough that everybody's just like not paying attention. And once in a while, you get some questions that I'm sure it's helpful to that individual, but for the rest of the group, maybe they're rolling their eyes a little bit. So,
Well put. Well put.
I think that happens every time,
yeah,
right? And again, I can't speak for that age division, but historically speaking, there were always some culprits that you could count on drawing things out.
oh yeah,
Like
yep.
everyone else gets this. Um,
Yeah.
so, when we were going back and forth setting up this interview, you shot us some information about yourself and your fitness background. One of the things that leapt out at me is for somebody that's now one of the fittest women in the world, the first thing you started off with, no athletic background whatsoever. Grew up in the 50s and 60s and girls did not play sports, which I know that I've heard that before, but every time I hear it again, I've forgotten it. I mean, do you have, just looking in the rearview mirror now, a couple reflections as to how things have changed so significantly?
Well, yeah. And obviously, I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a suburban environment that had a tremendous amount of kids during that time period. And you went outside and played, and that's what it
Mm.
was. And it was a blue collar environment, and nobody was going to many activities. I wanted to go to dance classes, and my family wouldn't let me. And I kind of feel like that physicality is what sort of led me to where I am now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it is kind of mind boggling because even by the time I got to high school, especially girls' sports weren't even talked about. And I went to a Catholic high school where there were well over 1,500 in my grade. So there
Oh,
were a ton of people, but sports was still very, very, very small at that point in time in that area.
so were you? I'm. It's always interesting when you look at things through the lens of today, right? And it's
Yeah.
easy to forget that things aren't always in perpetuity the way they are now. So can you paint the picture a little bit? Like, how did you, as somebody who wanted to do these things but didn't really have an outlet, like what was it that was in your head that was like, this is even something I would want to do or that I find to be important? Like what even got in your mind that was like, I think this is for me, even if it wasn't really available and you had to kind of seek it out? Like what was that kind of sparked it for you?
I think what it was is as I've just said that I mentioned that I really would have wanted to have taken dance classes. And
Okay.
I really was one of those kids that, get out of the way because I'm dancing. I'm in the room, I'm doing something. And I was fortunate enough that I got into some dance groups when I was in high school without any kind of background. So I think I felt a little bit of confidence from that perspective. But
Mm.
then after you're, becoming an adult, that was more like in the late 70s, I started running, and I also was a little bit chunkier, so I was trying to kind of get some weight off. And that's the sort of thing, and then you're hooked. I mean, the
Mm.
endorphin piece of all of that. And again, very goal oriented. Okay, I can only run this much now. Oh, remember last year I couldn't even run
Mm-hmm.
anything. So you get into that because I'm obviously very competitive and I love to analyze. So that whole
Mm.
idea of when you finally see something working for you or you're improving, the physical piece of it, it's no different than it is today. I mean, you get the endorphin thing going, you feel like you've mastered something, and then you feel like you can conquer the world because there's so much power in it, I feel, in
Well,
just
yeah.
the physical piece of what sports or anything can bring.
Couldn't agree more. Pat and I talk about that a lot as kind of a theme of the podcast is just, hey, you don't have to be champ. You don't have to be the fittest person in your gym, but to
Yeah.
know that you are directly in control of those outcomes just by the level of your effort and the level of your consistency, like that is a really powerful thing. I think particularly for people that may not have had that kind of sports background. You know what I mean? It can be even more so because that wasn't something that was introduced early on. So what was it about running that snagged you? Do you remember? Like how did you
Probably
get into that?
it's just because what else am I going to do? I didn't have
Okay.
anything else. People were starting to run at that point.
Yeah.
It's the 70s. So
Economical, just need some shoes.
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean, that was always something that was very cool. And then from the dance piece of things, I always felt like I understood my body a little bit more. And then you're kind of getting into that Jane Fonda thing and jazzercise and all of those things that were happening at
Awesome.
that particular point. And that's when I started in Florida and was somehow found myself in a couple of situations where I was working with corporations and starting a business and doing more of that leg warmer kind of the headband kind of thing. But it really fueled me, and it's definitely looking back on this. I mean, we're talking 30, 40 years ago, and it's still a piece of me.
Yeah.
You have to do you. You have to find you, I think.
Yeah.
And while I didn't have it growing up, I certainly found it.
It's so cool. People don't know this about Pat, but he caught the tail end of that jazzercise movement too. It was
I do tell you what, if somebody threw in some ankle weights, I'm sure they would be shocked at how difficult
Hey,
everything became. Go do
I've
some
seen some
burpees with
pictures,
some
Pat. I've
3-pound
seen some
ankle
pictures.
weights on. In the bio that you sent out, we can't just gloss over this. You said that you were involved in a small cable TV exercise show in the
I
80s in
was.
Florida. I mean, what's the deal there?
I was. I had those leg warmers on. I had the whole thing. I had the belt. Like you had the high leotard, and then you had the belt under the leotard to make it even higher. That whole kind of thing. Yeah, that was. I
How did
have
you
some
find
pictures.
yourself on television?
What was that?
How did you find yourself on television?
Well, because what was happening at that point is that somebody had known that I was teaching classes at Westinghouse, which was corporation that had hired me, and I that was an article, and then it kind of went from there onto a little very small, very small. This is as you know before everything in terms of cable as we know it,
Mhm.
and very very local. But it was
Oh,
fun.
oh,
It
I
was
bet.
fun.
That's really
what was
cool.
the buy-in like at that corporate gig? You know what I mean? Because I've seen people that have gone down that road in the past,
Uh huh.
and it kind of varies. You know what I mean? Like you have some people
Yeah.
that are all in. You've got some people that are just kind of told to be there. You've got some people that are kind of just not all about it at all. So paint the picture. This is probably what the '80s, and
It
you get
is.
hired
It
on
is
this
the
corporate
80s.
gig.
Yep.
Was there a lot of interest in that? Was it something you really had to push people into? Like, what was that like?
There was some initial interest because it started at the time when there was starting to be some, I'd say, more around the country. Things were happening in other
Okay,
places, so it was a trial that, like so many other trials, didn't continue forever.
sure.
But I would say that on average, I would have 10 to 15 people who would then bring some other people
Oh,
through.
cool.
But it was definitely not something that was people were asked to go to at that
Yeah.
particular point. It was a convenience that was going to be had at the site prior to having to leave or go to lunch or any of those sorts of things. So it was fun. It was fun, and I am definitely a lot about fun.
I
That's
bet.
important.
I'm curious. Strength conditioning is one thing, CrossFit fitness. A lot of people love to, I was gonna say a lot of people love to do thrusters, but that's a lie. A lot of people love to deadlift, love to squat, maybe like to go out for a run and all that stuff. But then having like whatever that thing is between the ears where you're so competitive that you're willing to go to an even special dark place just to beat the person next to you who's doing the same thing. Did that Were you born competitive and it doesn't matter what it is you want to win? Are you just competitive in sports and did it develop later on? But where did that come from?
I think I was born competitive and didn't have any opportunity for a very long time to use that piece of,
Mm.
or to hone that piece of me.
Just in sports or anything?
Anything.
Okay.
I think it's
Okay.
middle child syndrome.
Okay.
I think that I'm sure there's something there, but um, yeah, I mean, I would say now whether this is also like a boomer kind of thing, being competitive in my job, I was always
Mm.
wanting to be the best at what I did, and I was willing to do just about anything to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an unusual mentality for people in my generation. The boss is always right. You stay until the job is done. You do whatever it takes. And, often we're raising kids with that kind of mentality too. So they now stand out in a very different way because that's not other generations. But yeah, I think I'm just completely competitive all the time. No, the
Awesome.
body isn't necessarily holding up to that competitiveness, but the brain still, yeah,
The
yeah.
mind is giving orders to the body, and the body's
I
like,
am
hey, slow
telling you,
down.
something happened at Legends a month ago, and that's the one thing that I'm going to remember about what I screwed up and
Oh
lost
no.
out on. Yeah, yeah.
Well, how old are you now and what was it?
I'm 71,
Okay.
and we went to yeah, loved Legends because that's sort of what really started my competitive CrossFit
Yep.
fire, and I was so happy when I finally qualified for that in 2020. And but what happened is we were doing a complex for a lift, and at the athlete briefing, it was a decision was made as to what would be the tiebreaker. And quite frankly, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I thought I wrapped my head, but I
Mm,
couldn't because, okay, so listen to this. So when do we ever do this? You could go down in weight and in the 4-minute window, do as much as you wanted on that complex. And if
okay.
you happen to be the one that had the most weight, you then won the tiebreak.
The most weight moved overall during the 4-minute
Correct.
window,
During the 4-minute
Oh, I
given
window.
the
see.
loading on the barbell. Gotcha. Okay.
Correct. And you know what? Maybe it's my age. Maybe I don't know what it was, but I just literally, in the heat of the moment, it didn't occur to me.
Sure.
When do you ever go down and wait and then just try and keep working
Let
on
rip.
that?
Yeah,
So
well, and in 4 minutes, you don't have a lot of time to make those
exactly,
decisions too. But
exactly.
hey, Pat, you were talking smack at the beginning of the episode. Maybe you should have been one of those people with your hand up in the brief. That's
You know what? You don't think I thought that, Boz? I seriously did. I thought, well, now I get why those other people are doing what they're doing. 'Cause I really, but it was the heat of the moment. It was the day before.
Yeah,
It was a
sure.
change that was made last minute. And yeah, so talk about a reflection and a learning opportunity, right?
Well, there you go. 71, still competitive, still places to grow. You know what I mean? Isn't
Exactly.
that a great thing? That's,
It is.
yeah. Well, I want to go back to, okay, so started off, not a lot of outlets, get into dance, get into jazzercise, have this
Yeah.
corporate gig, do the TV thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, you said 2010 is the first time you stepped into a CrossFit gym. So pretty early adopter in the scheme of things. What led to that? Where was it? Like, what did you think the first time you
Friend.
stepped into the
I'm
gym?
living in Princeton, New Jersey. My children at that point, I still had somebody in middle school. My older son was in high school
Yep.
and was doing a lot of running, doing my own weight thing at home with
Okay.
dumbbells and stuff. And had never even heard of CrossFit. I mean, East Coast, and I
Sure.
realized, it was really only at around that time that it was starting to happen.
Yep.
And a friend of mine said, that I used to run with, and we used to work out together occasionally too. And she would say, I found this thing. And it's called CrossFit, which is such an odd name on the scheme of things for
Sure.
any kind um, of a program. And that was when we had 8 weeks, excuse me, 4 weeks, 8 sessions of foundations.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And from that time on, I mean, I was the classic person that you're there with the big green band or the big blue band trying to get your pull-ups and all of that. And it just felt the timing was right for me in my life to make that kind of a commitment to that. And it just really fueled me as well.
Yeah.
So
So was it
yeah,
like love it first sight, first session?
big
You're like,
time.
this is for me, or did it take a little while?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Love at first sight. I mean, there was a
And
lot of Pilates thing that was happening. There was a lot of
Yeah.
yoga, but that's not me. And yeah, the sheer intensity of it and the opportunity at that point in time was just it felt like, who doesn't want to do this? Who doesn't want to learn this? I mean, what's this going to feel like? And that was really wonderful because at that particular point in time, it really wasn't easy to be 55 in a lot of CrossFit boxes then.
Sure.
Was only really being played to those people who were RX. And I don't even think there were
scaling. What's scaling?
scale.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So, a couple of moves later, and, to be there during the height of all that was just damn fun because it was so clear of what you were trying to do. And of course, as I had mentioned earlier, there's that part of me that age wasn't an issue. I'm just going to keep trying. I'm just going to keep doing. I'm going to master something, and to feel that those weights go up over time when you don't even know what a barbell ever felt like until you
Mm.
walked in there. It was just so cool, and I wish all people could have something like that, whether it's CrossFit or something else that they feel they can have that kind of a response to, as well as do something so good for themselves.
And you feel like you're home, you know? And then I'm sure with your personality, after a while, enjoying the different stimulus, the workouts, the challenge, the
Absolutely.
intensity, all that, you go, oh, excuse me, what? There's a competitive side to this? Oh, I didn't know that. When did that kick in?
Well, interestingly enough, now think about it, guys, because it was only 55 plus when I was
Yeah.
there. And I'm looking at everything I can't do. Because again, you didn't have that mentality of scaling for this age bracket or scaling for that. And the open was only 55 plus. So I didn't have most of those movements. It took a long time to achieve that. And it was probably, I think it was 2013 or 2014 was my first open. And it was because I was in a different gym with owners that were slightly older than the previous gym that I had started with. And they really, really encouraged that community piece of it. So you could do it scaled. Remember all those scaled things? And then
Oh yeah.
we had,
Yeah.
yeah. So, obviously I'm not looking to go anywhere, but what an opportunity. I mean, everybody should do the open if for no other reason to find the purpose and to analyze the purpose of why you're doing whatever you're doing while you're there and to see where you are. I mean, that to me is
Yeah.
the beauty of all of that. That's what I've always loved about that, whether I was competing or not. But then, and then you start to see the same names and you're hovering around the same names on the leaderboard. And then, obviously, once they added the 60 plus, I've always been lucky that they seem to have added that when I was often one of the youngest in the age groups. And the same thing here, the 60, 65, and 70. So you kind of, then you're just almost automatically, if you can do the movements, forget whether you're good, not good, or whatever, you're then you're in the quarterfinals, which to
Mm.
me, like, I hope we all do this for the rest of our lives because it just
Yeah.
pushes you in the best way. Whether you do anything with it, whether it gets you anywhere, I just think it's such a great understanding of, oh, I'm better at this than I thought I was. Or last year I only did X weight on this, and looking at this workout, I've really improved on XYZ, where I'm really dragging myself down in ABC. And to me, it just has always given purpose and motivation and focus on what you want to do in order to put the best you out there.
I
I
could
love that. I
Most
mean,
out of
everything
it.
you just said there is like blast that from the rooftops. You know what I mean? I think Pat and I are fully on board with everything you just put out there. I mean, that's it right there. And
It
yeah,
is.
couldn't agree more.
I get
Uh,
a question for you. If I cut you off, boss, let me know. Go
no,
ahead.
no, no. I
Um, I it sounds like we're about to. The next question I would logically ask you is: you're in it, you're doing it, you're competing and whatnot. Talk to me specifically about your road to actually competing at the games and what got you there. But before I do that, based upon something what you just said about your love, your passion, the journey, the advancement, that just either you can or can't even do a particular movement and all this stuff. Okay, you're 71 now, started at 55. I mean, you're north of 15 years of doing CrossFit. Okay, so I'm going to assume if you came in at 55 from just basically aerobics and running and whatnot, that you had a
Mhm.
ton, even at 55, of like newbie and beginner gains, never having touched a barbell and all this stuff. But I have to assume now that you're about 15 or 16 years into that in 71, are you still um, making those PRs, or or are you not in like the squat and the dead and certain things? And if the answer is no, have you found any tricks between your ears to stay motivated still doing those things if potentially a PR in a particular thing may not be achieved again?
That's a great question. And I was just listening to another podcast that you guys had done on not that long ago regarding aging, and a gentleman who had kind of lost his motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought through that, and I think in some ways I've had my share of injuries, which have sort of pushed me back, just as most of us have, or times that we've had to maybe take a back seat to something.
Well, because your
So,
your mind doesn't realize you're 71.
well,
Your
that is
your
absolutely
your
true because I
your hip
still think
flexors
I'm
and everything's
40.
like, hey, pump the brakes. Your mind's like, we are
I
going
know.
to crush this today. Bring your A
Yeah.
game.
So my first injury in CrossFit was I tore my ACL doing a broad jump.
okay.
Obviously not well. So I mean, you're out for. They don't,
Sure.
at the
Yeah.
age
Mm-hmm.
that I was at, they're not letting you come back the same way a football player is. And then I did have a knee replacement in 2018, and
Okay.
again, they didn't want me really even doing any squatting for about a year.
Mhm.
And but I'm also I perfected sitting on that box and working my upper body or doing,
Yep. Yep.
Yes,
I
ma'am. Yep.
really love all of it. Maybe it's because I started as old as I did. And I'm not running around with little kids at that point and so many other things that can also get in the way. And I just are there days when you didn't have the motivation? Absolutely. Are there days when you're feeling like a failure? Absolutely. The other thing is I'd been to a couple of different boxes and those things are rough too, when all of a sudden, for a variety of different reasons, you just don't have the community around you that you had. And then you're starting
Sure.
all over in terms of what you get from a box or from things. And I would say the biggest thing is I finally figured out, okay, why am I always using a 14-pound wall ball if the majority of my competing is going to be with a 10-pound? Or why am I always thinking I should
Mm.
do something in a workout at such and such a weight when maybe I really need to hone in and cycle better the weight range that is going to be from a competitive standpoint. So I've kind of felt like the PR thing. Um, I don't, and also probably because of my knee, and then my other knee needs to be
Mm-hmm.
done. So I'm really, yeah, I'm not even looking at those numbers. I try and get much better and do more at 75 or 80% of what
Mm.
that number is,
Yeah.
regardless of what the percentage is that I'm doing. Because that just is going to make me feel better. And to be able to say, oh, this back squat at this weight felt pretty good. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Yeah.
what different if I can't show up the next day, that's a problem for me.
A
So I'd
hundred
much
percent.
rather I'm not chasing PRs.
Live to train
Yeah.
another day.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm not. It took me a long time to figure that out. And the other piece of it too is I don't have anybody in my kind of circle that I can really train with or know what to do with some things too. So that's also part of a problem. For the longest time, I was always trying to compete with that person next to me. Well,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's not probably not in my best interest. I mean, to compete and
Right.
to be motivated by them,
Right.
that's fine.
Sure.
But I
Sure.
need to stay. I'm really learning to stay more in my lane so I can show up well the next
Yep.
day. And there's always something to work on, right?
Yep.
100%,
Like
yes.
I strained my calf yesterday, and our one of our owners said, "Pat, why don't you work on transitions? See how quickly you can." You hear these are the movements that you're doing, but see I've got Fittest to the Coast coming up, which is a great competition here in February, and obviously the Open is right around the corner. And where am I going to improve? What can I work on, even if I can't deadlift whatever my PR was, or find a
Yeah.
new one.
I love it. It's
Uh,
there's a theme that you're kind of putting down here that I really want to just put a little attention on, which is I think particularly with the age group athletes, it's really an experiment, and I think CrossFit as a whole, the whole movement, when you look at it today, sitting here in early 2026, I think it's easy to kind of get the belief that CrossFit is this like known thing that's always been kind of known, but it's not. And your beginnings highlighted that, where yeah, there weren't trainers at that time that had really been experienced with enough time to know how to cater towards athletes of all ages and ability levels. It was really a little bit more of a straight down the pipe, this is how we coach everybody type of situation. It's much more nuanced nowadays. Same thing with just the masters competitors in general. It took a long time to get to the age group categories that are available now, and even within those, it's like some of them are such new territory that I don't think anybody can claim that they're the absolute expert on how to approach that yet. And so some people I think would see that, and they might not be comfortable with it because it's tough to be in an environment where it's not just known and the path isn't just laid out to you. But other people, and it sounds like you're one of them, kind of thrives in that environment of like, okay, I'm a bit of a pioneer in this, but I'm going to just dive into it and see what I can do with it and adjust as I kind of make mental notes about what's working and what's not. I just think that's so cool. And I think it's important for the listeners to understand that, again, there's so much information available now in 2026. It's easy to think that things are so fixed, but it's not the case. There's still lots of room for people to experiment with the methodology, to cater it towards the needs that suit them, and to find things to focus on that keep them motivated and doing it. Because I mean, at the end of the day, Pat and I talk about this all the time. The most important thing is that you stick with it, hopefully
Yeah.
for life. Like you
Yeah.
don't get to that age where you're like, well, I'm at X age. I guess I just stop now. It's like, no, that's not how it works. This train has got to keep going. So how do you motivate yourself to do that? And I think it's important to highlight there's still plenty of room for experimentation within that. So anyway, it's cool to hear your story around that.
Yeah, it is fun. It is a lot of fun to see. For instance, for me this year with the games, this is the first year that 70 plus was officially part of the games. There was an
Yep.
exhibition last year, and obviously you can take that. You can take 65 and you can figure out the normally what happens. But I also think this year specifically, I can only speak to us, the semis for very little um, indication of what
Mhm.
the games ended up being.
Oh,
So, in
interesting.
other words, I'm going to take one movement that I thought of. So, I obviously I don't I'm not a games athlete for a very long time. I don't have a history of that. I've always considered myself a middle of the road kind of a CrossFitter that loves it and just keeps working on what I need to work on. But, and I was always good at Metcons. So I did
Okay.
really well in the semis because they were scaled down versions of some of the things that I'm not that good at that showed up in the games. So I kind of feel, but you didn't know what really was
Sure.
going to happen. And sometimes the volume and the scales just really were not necessarily indicative of what you should be working on because we've never done it before.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think, but I also I think that's a lot of fun. That's just the way this works. Talk about the unknowing, and you just go out there, and obviously that's going to change every year, because every
Sure.
year, just like people weren't doing bar muscle ups at the age of 55 15 years ago, now you're going to have 70 plus doing. There's
Yeah, I
new
mean,
people
given
that are
enough
going to
time,
do
right?
bar muscle ups. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Well,
what they
that
want to do.
is actually something I was really curious about. So you started, we're back in 2010. You're 55 at the time, I think you said.
Yep.
First starting CrossFit. Like, what was that skill uptake like? Like, were there movements that you looked at and you're like, I've never seen some of these in my life. How am I ever going to approach this? Like, what were some of those things? How long did it take you to uptake some of those movements? Like, what are the movements you're still working on and trying to
Oh
polish?
God.
Like, what's that?
Okay.
What's that skill uptake like?
Well, I think like so many women, especially if you don't come from something that has built your upper body,
Yeah.
swimming, gymnastics, etc. Um, I think that first pull up is always something that you're striving for.
It's a
And
huge
again,
achievement.
huge,
Yeah.
huge achievement, huge achievement. And let alone even not even what the hell is chest to bar anyhow? I don't even,
Right.
you know what I mean? But that's beside the point. And then chasing, I look more like a yoga person. I don't
Okay.
have the DNA and the genetics of a bigger lower body that's going to then, okay, she might not be good in this, but man, can she lift some weight? And so, then you're chasing those deadlift numbers, to
Sure.
whether it be 200, now at the trajectory can really go pretty fast if you're putting the right time into it, and obviously the nutrition and all of the other elements that can put you in a better position to achieve what it is you're looking to do. But I also remember that it took me forever to get to 200 on a
Mm,
deadlift. And honestly, I'm not even sure that's a number that's going to feel that comfortable today.
sure.
But that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm okay with all of that.
Yeah.
But I'd work really hard if I found myself in a competition that's what that was, that
Hmm.
we're going for a PR. But I don't know. I guess it's the whole physical thing. I don't have anything else. Maybe I'm just making up for all the years that all the other kids that are in sports don't want to have anything to do with any of this stuff sometimes, because they've had
That's
enough
true.
of
You
the
see that?
elimination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. And you can tell from just the way I talk about it. I truly do love it. It's such a
Mm,
big piece of my life.
yeah. Yeah.
And to have found what I think I'm just a middle of the roader at the CrossFit Games was just it's still very, I'm really proud of myself for that.
Yeah. You
And
should be.
I think it's not necessarily because I've achieved certain things within those movements, but I'd like to think it's just because I kept putting in the work to try and get better.
Yep.
And and then sometimes things just fall in a really good place for you. Number of other people in my chose not to do the semis, and I remember, and I will always remember looking at the leaderboard, and I'm just refreshing, and I'm saying, well, not no, they're still putting scores in. They're still putting scores in, and if you've been in this 15 years, pinnacle of achievement is to find yourself at the CrossFit Games, having earned that spot, and I have had the best 15 minutes of fame, even after the games, that is still going on here in January. And it is mind boggling to me. And I also love what really struggled turning 70. 70 felt like 90 to
Mm,
me. Like 60 anything felt more like 50, because I think I just
mm.
acted
Was
the way
there a
I did.
physical change you felt? Or you're talking between the years, all of a sudden you're like, oh boy, I'm at 70.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And yes. So I would say for me, there was a major like aging like in dog years between 67 and 69. And it's like, what the heck is going on here? So you just really feel it, whether it's your hair, whether it's your skin, whether it's changes in your body, whether it's hormones, whether it's sleep, all of those things that will affect all of us at some point. And that was hard. And then you don't, I'm not able to compete anywhere because I'm at the bottom of my age group, and I'm not doing as well in that I would like to be doing. And then my gym fell apart,
Mm,
and that was such a source for me when my husband
yeah.
Lou and I moved here. And, then it's sort of like 70. I felt like no, I didn't feel like I was 90, but I couldn't wrap my head around the number. I still don't think
Mhm.
I can wrap my head around the number, but I'm trying.
I I
Um,
I have to
and
assume oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. And then from my perspective, as one of my sons reminded me, Mom, for somebody who really struggled with this number, you've had a hell of a year. And it's true. I feel like, oh my
Amen to
God,
that.
how the heck did I find myself not only at the CrossFit Games, but they did a they did the Forging Elite fitness commercial in Charleston. And one day I open Instagram and I see myself hanging from a bar with the word elite under it. And I'm saying, who the hell am I? How did this happen to me? And you can tell I'm grateful.
Yeah,
I am grateful. I love having this peace in my life. And I really feel like somewhere along the line, I'm supposed to let other people know they need to find whatever it is that's going to bring them this much joy
that's awesome.
and pride.
And Pat, I think that's so cool that, well, I mean, it's not cool that you struggle with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's tough.
Yeah.
That I get that. That's I'm not a 70 yet, and all things lining up. I hope I make it that far. Nobody's guaranteed anything, so I try to keep that in mind. Like I think it's my view on the age that I've gotten to so far is like it is a privilege to get that far.
Yeah.
Not everybody's so
Yeah.
lucky, so I try to keep that in mind. But it's really interesting for me to hear you say things like, "Yeah, it's been tough turning 70." When externally, I think anybody who meets you on the street and
Mhm.
you're like, "Yeah, I'm 71," and they look at you and be like, "You're out of your mind," like just your clarity of thought and expression, your physicality. I mean, it belies the number. And so to hear that you still have those moments where you're like, "Oh, this is tough to deal with," like I think that's healthy for people to understand that it doesn't go away just because you're good at
Mhm.
fitness. You know what I mean? It doesn't go away just because you are taking care of yourself and showing up for yourself like that. You still have to deal with some of these very natural things that come along with that territory. Because I do think that sometimes people feel this pressure to like, when I get to a certain milestone, all of that stuff goes away.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not true. You just get better at navigating it, but it's still in the mix. So I think that's really cool that you can share that process with us. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and no matter what happens, no one can ever take it away from you. On your resume is
Yeah.
CrossFit Games athlete,
You got
period,
that right.
Yeah.
That's
Can't be
period,
right.
end of story.
And
can't be lost.
I hope it's not one and done, but you never know,
Yeah.
right? And I will give it my all to make sure that doesn't happen, or at least know that I did everything I could to try and get back there. But yeah, and I think, for me to look at people, the other thing that I think is just really, really important to talk about here too is my version of my competitors was a 60 and a 65-year-old opinion.
Mhm.
And that to me was the best part, to show up and feel like I belonged there, because they're not 60 and 65 and moving the way that they did when they were winning some CrossFit Games. So the Mary Schwings of the world, she's I beat her in a few workouts. That is like a big deal to me, a
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
really big deal. And I think that we often get stuck in our
Sure.
head with our competition. And that was really, really a great a great way for me when I realized that I had come in second in two finishes. And I'm thinking, I do belong here. I belong
Oh,
here.
not only do you belong, but, if I blow the dust off my very, very old analyst days, there were people who they would just outcompete their gym numbers, so to speak. Like, you might
Mhm.
walk into the CrossFit Games and everyone's benchmarks are listed somewhere, and you're like, "Oh boy, like, this is gonna be a rough week." And then you go out there and you get a bunch of finishes better than what you thought because some people, when the lights are on and the stakes are high and the pressure's up there, some people focus and some people fold, and the numbers that you had in the gym betray some people, and some people outperform those numbers by leaps and bounds. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, once they say 3, 2, 1, go, there's no telling what's going to happen until that event's over.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's why you just keep fighting until that last rep. But I'm curious. I got a couple, maybe just a couple questions here for you outside of the world of CrossFit. Um, I'm going to make a bold assumption that when you go to your primary care physician for your annual checkup, that you're not the typical 71-year-old that they see. Um, do they know what you do in the gym? And, 'cause I'm going to make again another bold assumption that most physicians, unless you've got a great one, wouldn't be like, I like to tell all my 70-year-olds to like squat heavy and deadlift. And they're like, it's not like, do they know what you do? And if so, what's their take on that?
Well, I'd say that as we know, they're not the world in which they're living in. They're quite happy that I have no medication. They're and I never have. And I just, obviously present the way I do. But I don't feel like they think that this is incredibly unusual. And I think sometimes you still get a little bit of, well, are you being careful and making
Sure.
sure and I get that. I
Yep.
get that. I mean,
Yeah.
I completely understand that. But I also go back that what I will say is you got to find the people that are going to support you doing you. And whether
Hmm.
or not you're getting a knee replaced, I'm not going to sit there with somebody who's now a new doctor. And if they don't think I should be doing this, that's not the right person for me to work with, period. So I do seek out people that support what it is I do. And they they do appreciate it, but I am in South Carolina and I think they see more of what is not necessarily anything like this.
Oh,
Um,
I think that's everywhere these days, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm
Unfortunately.
far
Yep.
away from you, and that's what we see. Uh, Two other areas that I'm interested just of what you've learned over the course of being active your entire life, CrossFit since 2010, now elite level masters athlete, with the intensity and volume of training that you would like to put your body through. What have you learned about what works for you with regards to nutrition and what works for you with regards to recovery?
I think for the longest time I didn't pay as much attention to any of those, and that's not unusual. And again, there's that part of me that always thinks that I'm 20 years younger than I am. So you can just power through it. Again, that you went to work when you were sick. You did, just shut
Sure.
up and
Hmm.
go. Just do. Um, I pay a lot more attention now. I am more protein oriented as well as when am I eating
Mm.
to ensure that I am refueling. And the recovery piece of it is I'm working back adjustments all the time. I definitely get massage. I definitely get compression boots. I spend a lot of time with knee wraps and things of that sort. Because otherwise I'm not going to be able to show up the next day. So I
Hmm.
also probably spend half an hour warming up,
I was
which
going
is
to say,
not
you don't
unusual
walk in
anymore.
in stone cold, pull a 1 rep max deadlift, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that because it's what it is what's going to happen is you're going to be fine in the gym, and then you're going to go try and get in your car, and you're going to pull your back out because that's
Right.
how that works. So you really, I'm really much more cognizant. And luckily, I'm currently at a gym where there's a lot of open gym time, so I can not only take classes, but I can then if the class thing isn't going to work for me in terms of being able to do the warm-ups or whatever that I need to do, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for me to do what I need to do. Um,
Yeah.
Nice.
and I appreciate that because that's not often the case. And there's always a coach there.
Oh,
So
nice.
you can
Yeah.
really, and I'm very, very grateful for that because I think that also put me that level of elevated standards put me in a really great place to walk into the games and to do
Yeah.
as well
Cool.
as I did.
So what's like a perfect week of training? Like let's say your schedule is open, you don't have much else on the books. You've got a whole 7-day period here. Like what's ideal for you as far as how you'd structure that weekdays off, if any? Like, what does that look like in a perfect world?
Yeah, I have a hard time taking days off, and I do take at least one day off.
I'm shocked.
I know, because like I said, I'm finally, understanding a few things here. That I need to show up the way I need to show up, and I
Yeah.
can't, and that involves recovery. So I would be at the gym probably 2 to 3 hours. Now, am I working for 2 to 3 hours? No. Am I socializing a little bit? Am I warming up? Am I doing an hour class? And then what else am I doing? Am I working on barbell? Am I working on gymnastics? And then I would probably spend another half an hour warming down and
Mm,
stretching and things of that sort. Now that's not what often is going to happen, but I want a good two. I need a good 2 hours, and I just feel like I'm always looking of what can I do to improve in X, Y, and Z.
Awesome.
nice. Yeah, that's fantastic. Do you have anything else you want to ask her, boss?
I'm
No,
sorry.
I mean, I just really appreciate that you're willing to come and hang out with us a little bit and talk about your experience. I think it's really cool to hear somebody with such a storied history of what led them to CrossFit and sticking with it this long. I think that's something Pat and I preach all the time: is, hey, you can't have a short term view on any of this. So what's it going to take for you to get there and stay there? So yeah, I really think it's useful for people to hear your experience.
Pat, I do have one
Well,
final question. Oh, sorry.
no. Now, the other piece of all this is you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
We
say
are
that again.
so at the
Yep.
mercy of
Yep.
who's not, who chose not to do this particular competition or
Sure.
qualifier or anything, who what the workouts are. And we all have holes. We're all in all likelihood not going to, especially at this age, be number one in everything.
Mhm.
And I think I'm every person. I really do. If you love it as much as I do, and you're willing to put in the time and the energy and the commitment, just stay with it, because the rewards, who would have thought that I would have been this happy with all of this at the age of 71? And
Yeah.
that's so cool. I
Yep.
mean,
Very cool.
have your gym members come up and say, "Oh, I showed my mom your article about this, that, or the other thing," and this was also in my Lululemon um, weekly newsletter that went across the world, and I am completely blown away by what the tentacles of all of this. And I
Yeah.
just think
Yep.
I'm your average CrossFitter, but man, am
Yep.
I happy doing it. I just love it. I really do. And the biggest thing to me is the camaraderie of meeting other people like myself, which I haven't talked
Yep.
about, especially at this age. I mean, that's the best part. And I'm really grateful because I understand this is a business and it's probably not the most profitable uh, division, but I do love that there are opportunities for us.
Well, final
Awesome.
question. You've been married to your husband Lou for 40 years.
Mm.
Does Lou think you're crazy?
Oh yes, yes, but for a lot. Okay, I will tell you a very funny story. I researched somebody, and I'm not going to say his name, but a prominent CrossFit doctor, and I went at that point to travel to where he was. And Lou had gone with me, and this was to research my knee replacement because I'm thinking that's the right way to go.
Sure.
At some point, this guy turns to Lou and says, "She's a handful." And I thought, I didn't even think I was that bad. What I was probably just talking this and that and blah, blah, blah. But I'm thinking, so that sort of explains it. But he loves me all.
And Lou is like, "Yep, yep, I knew
Yeah.
that already."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But man, she's fun.
Oh, that's great. Well, hey, Pat, thank you for sharing your experience. I mean, we're just meeting for the first time, but you are a tremendous ambassador for
Yeah.
CrossFit and the CrossFit Games, and a wealth of knowledge and experience. So again, just thank you for being so very open and honest with your journey.
Well, Thank you. I mean, what a treat to meet and chat with both of you, and both of you. And I love the banter the two of you have on these podcasts. It's really
We have a good
easy to
time.
listen to.
Hey,
Yeah, that comes through, and it's really wonderful. It's thank
Pat
you.
and I, we're not quite 70 yet, but we've known each other a long time now. And
It's been a bit.
yeah, we got a pretty good rapport, I'd like to think. So, yeah.
You do. It comes across.
Yeah.
So
It's been a
that's
bit.
great.
Well, we wish you the absolute very best with your competitive goals in 2026, and we'll be tracking you on the leaderboard.
I love that. Thank you. Appreciate both of you a
Have a
lot.
good day.
You as well. Take care.